In January 2020, entire communities across New South Wales and Victoria were completely cut off. Roads closed, power lines down, smoke so thick that daylight looked like dusk. And 2 months after that, in March 2020, Australians walked into Coles and Woolworths and found empty shelves where pasta, rice, and tinned food used to be gone within 48 hours. And the people who were not panicking, the people who were completely calm while everyone else was losing their minds in the pasta aisle. They had already done what I'm about to show you today. This is not a video about fear. This is a video about being the person who is prepared. Australia is one of the most disaster-prone countries on the planet. Bushfires, floods, cyclones, earthquakes, and as we all learned in 2020, a global crisis can empty supermarket shelves faster than you can reach for your wallet. The good news is that for less than a few $100s spent slowly and strategically over the next few weeks, you can build a stockpile that means you never have to panic again. Today, I'm going through the 12 best canned foods to stockpile right now, specifically for Australian households, using brands you'll actually find at your local Coles, Woolies, or IGA. Let's get into it, starting at number 12. Number 12 is one that most Australians walk straight past in the supermarket aisle because they've never thought of it as a survival food. Canned pumpkin. Not the American pie filling, but pure unseasoned pumpkin puree. And in Australia, SPC makes a solid version that does exactly what you need. Pumpkin is an absolute nutritional powerhouse that sits on your shelf for 3 to 5 years without complaint, getting enormous amounts of beta-carotene and vitamin A, both of which are critical for immune function and eye health, especially during periods of stress when your body needs every bit of support it can get. The fiber content is exceptional too, which matters more than you might think in a crisis scenario. When your diet becomes limited and repetitive, digestive problems become a genuine health issue. Pumpkin helps prevent that. The real strategic value here is versatility. You can add it to soups for body and nutrients. Mix it with rice or oats. Stir it through pasta with some canned tomatoes. Make a basic pumpkin soup with nothing but water, salt, and whatever spices you have on hand. And because it carries a natural sweetness, it breaks up the monotony of a survival diet in a way that bland staples simply cannot. Palate fatigue is real. Eating the same taste day after day breaks morale faster than most people expect. Stock at least 12 cans. They are cheap, they last for years. And when fresh vegetables become unavailable, your body will be grateful you thought ahead. Number 11 is the canned protein that Australians tend to underestimate simply because they're used to cooking with it fresh. Canned chicken. A single can gives you between 40 and 50 grams of complete protein, meaning all 9 essential amino acids your body cannot produce on its own. In a long-term scenario where fresh meat is unavailable, maintaining muscle mass and energy levels depends heavily on that protein intake. Canned chicken typically lasts 3 to 5 years, requires no refrigeration, and critically requires no cooking. Though heating it, if you have the means, makes a significant difference to the eating experience. The versatility is outstanding for something that comes out of a tin. Add it to rice with some canned tomatoes for an instant meal. Throw it into soups. Mix it with canned vegetables and pasta. In Australia, brands like Edgell and various home brand options from the major supermarkets are reliable and affordable. Yes, it costs more than dried legumes, but the convenience, the shelf stability, and the fact that it arrives already cooked makes it worth every cent when you're managing a household through a disaster. Stock at least 24 cans per person for a 3-month supply. More if the budget allows. Number 10 is a staple that needs no introduction in Australian households. Canned tuna. John West has been in Australian pantries for generations, and there is a reason for that. Tuna is packed with protein, omega-3 fatty acids that reduce inflammation and support brain function, and essential micronutrients, including vitamin D and selenium. both of which become harder to maintain when you're not eating a varied diet. The shelf life sits at 3 to 5 years under decent storage conditions, and if you keep it somewhere cool and dark, some sources suggest it goes even longer. Tuna packed in spring water is leaner and better suited to stockpiling in volume without becoming overwhelming. Oil-packed tuna carries more calories per can, which becomes an advantage in genuine survival conditions where calorie density matters. The one consideration worth knowing: mercury content means you don't want to eat tuna as your sole protein source every single day for months. Rotate it with other proteins on this list. Chunk tuna carries less mercury than albacore, so keep that in mind when buying in bulk. Stock at least 24 cans and treat it as one protein source among several rather than your entire strategy. Number 9 is tuna's more nutritious Australian cousin, and it doesn't get nearly enough attention. Canned salmon. You're getting higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids than tuna, with significantly less mercury concern, and if you buy salmon with the bones left in, which are soft, completely edible, and easy to mash, you're also getting a serious hit of calcium that is genuinely hard to source from other canned foods. In a scenario where dairy products are unavailable, that calcium becomes critical, especially for children, older adults, and pregnant women. The protein quality is exceptional. Complete animal protein with all essential amino acids, which your body needs to maintain immune function and sustain energy levels during extended stress. Canned salmon makes excellent salmon patties when combined with crackers or breadcrumbs. It works beautifully through pasta. It eats well on rice with a squeeze of lemon if you have it. In Australia, John West and Paramount both offer reliable canned salmon at most major supermarkets. Yes, it costs more than tuna, but the nutritional profile and lower mercury content justify a portion of your stockpile being dedicated to it. Aim for 12 to 18 cans. Number 8 is your vitamin and mineral insurance policy, and the reason you won't get scurvy when the fresh produce section of Coles has been empty for 3 weeks. Canned vegetables. We're talking Edgell corn, SPC tomatoes with vegetables, Edgell peas, mixed vegetables, carrots, and green beans. These foods retain most of their nutritional value through the canning process, and they sit on your shelf for 2 to 5 years without any attention required. The strategy here is variety. Do not stockpile 50 cans of the same vegetable. Get corn for carbohydrates and sweetness. Get peas for plant protein and fiber. Get carrots for vitamin A. Get mixed vegetables for nutritional coverage across a single can. Low sodium or no added salt versions are the smarter buy because you can always add salt to food, but you cannot take it out. And high sodium becomes a genuine problem when water availability is limited or health conditions are a factor. The psychological benefit of having vegetables, even canned ones, in your meals during a crisis cannot be overstated. It makes food feel like food rather than just fuel. And that distinction affects morale more than people realize until they're actually in a situation where it matters. Stock at least 30 to 40 cans distributed across different varieties. Number 7 is the one that most Australians already have on their shelf without thinking of it as a survival food at all, and that instinct is completely correct. Canned tomatoes in every form they come in. SPC and Ardmona are two of the most iconic Australian food brands in existence, both headquartered in Shepparton, Victoria, both producing canned tomatoes, high-crushed tomatoes, diced tomatoes, and tomato paste that have been in Australian kitchens for well over a century. Tomatoes are the foundation of an enormous number of meals. They provide lycopene, vitamin C, vitamin A, and potassium, and the shelf life ranges from 18 months to 5 years, depending on the product. But the real reason tomatoes sit this high on the list is what they do to everything else in your stockpile. Rice becomes something you actually want to eat. Beans become a meal rather than a chore. Pasta goes from boring to satisfying. Canned meat becomes a sauce. You need multiple forms. Tomato paste for concentrated flavor and thickness. Crushed tomatoes for sauces. Diced tomatoes for soups, stews, and chili. The tomato is the single ingredient that gives you the ability to cook rather than just eat hot, and that distinction matters enormously across an extended emergency. Stock at least 30 to 40 cans across all forms. If you've been finding value in this breakdown, hit subscribe right now and turn on notifications. This channel is where Australians come for honest, practical preparedness information built specifically for this country, not imported from America and repackaged. Subscribe now. The next 5 items include the one Australian brand that almost disappeared and what that means for your stockpile strategy, and the one tin that provides a nutrient most shelf-stable foods completely miss. Number 6 is the survival food that Australians know better than almost anyone else because it has been on Australian breakfast tables since the 1890s. Heinz baked beans. Australia consumes baked beans at a rate that puts most other countries to shame, and there is a reason this product has remained a household staple for over 100 years. A single can provides protein, complex carbohydrates, and significant fiber in one affordable, ready-to-eat package. The shelf life sits at 2 to 5 years. The calories per can, roughly 400, provide genuine, sustained energy. And unlike dried beans, which require soaking and long cooking times that consume fuel and water, baked beans come already prepared. Open the can, heat if you have the means, eat. That simplicity becomes an enormous advantage when resources are limited. They work as a standalone meal on toast if bread is available. They mix through rice for a more substantial dish. They add body and protein to soups and stews. The tomato sauce they come packed in contributes additional flavor and nutrition to everything they touch. Stock at least 30 cans. They are cheap, familiar, filling, and in Australia, they carry a cultural comfort factor that makes them easier to eat repeatedly than most other emergency staples. Number 5 is the one Australian families reach for during floods, cyclones, and bushfire evacuations more than almost anything else on this list, and for good reason. Canned soup. Heinz, Campbell's, and a range of supermarket home brand options give Australians an enormous variety to choose from. Chicken noodle, minestrone, pumpkin, tomato, vegetable, beef, and vegetable. Each providing different nutrients, but all delivering the same critical combination of nutrition, hydration, warmth, and psychological comfort in a single can. Or the shelf life is typically 2 to 5 years. Condensed versions last even longer and take up less storage space, though they require water to prepare, which means your water stockpile and your soup stockpile need to be planned together. In cold or wet conditions, a flooded home, a bushfire evacuation center, a winter power outage, hot soup provides immediate warmth, calories, and the specific psychological comfort that makes an abnormal situation feel slightly more manageable. When illness hits and solid food is difficult to stomach, soup is the easiest thing to eat. The hydration component is also significant. During disasters, dehydration is a consistent and underestimated risk. Soup delivers fluids and nutrition simultaneously. Stock at least 24 to 30 cans across multiple varieties. Number 4 is the one that surprises people every time it comes up in a preparedness conversation. And yet, once you understand why it's here, it becomes obvious. Canned coconut milk. In Australian households, coconut milk is not an exotic ingredient. It is a pantry staple used in curries, soups, rice dishes, and desserts across millions of Australian kitchens every week, driven by decades of Southeast Asian culinary influence on how Australians cook and eat. A single can of full-fat coconut milk delivers around 450 calories, significant healthy fats for satiety and sustained energy, and an almost infinite number of cooking applications. Mix it with canned pumpkin for a pumpkin coconut soup that is genuinely delicious. Add it to rice for coconut rice that transforms a bland staple into something worth eating. Stir it through canned chickpeas and tomatoes with curry powder for a meal that requires nothing else. The shelf life sits at 2 to 3 years, and in Australia, brands like IAM and TCC are widely available at every major supermarket. The other reason coconut milk earns its place this high is morale. In a long-term emergency, the ability to cook food that tastes good, not just food that keeps you alive, has a real and documented effect on mental health and community cohesion. Coconut milk gives your stockpile a flavor range that most other canned foods cannot. Stock at least 24 cans. Number 3 is old school, slightly divisive, and nutritionally irreplaceable in a genuine long-term emergency. Canned corned beef in Australia. And brands like Hereford and the various supermarket home brands have been producing canned corned beef for generations, and it delivers something that the plant-based items on this list cannot fully match. Dense, complete animal protein combined with significant caloric content from fat in a product that requires zero preparation and has a shelf life of 2 to 5 years. A single can provides 400 to 500 calories, complete protein with all essential amino acids, iron, zinc, and B vitamins that support energy production and immune function. Open the can, eat it cold if necessary, heat it if you can. Slice it and fry it for a proper meal. Add it to a soup or stew. Mix it with potato from a can and make a basic hash. In a scenario where fresh meat has been unavailable for weeks, the specific nutritional profile of canned corned beef, particularly the iron and B12, becomes genuinely medically significant. It is not health food by any modern standard. In a crisis, it is exactly what your body needs and cannot easily get elsewhere. Stock at least 15 to 20 cans. Number 2, and this one deserves more respect than it typically gets in an Australian context. Canned lentils. Australia is one of the world's largest producers and exporters of lentils, which makes it slightly absurd that more Australians don't stockpile the canned version as a survival staple. A single can of lentils delivers around 350 calories, 18 to 20 grams of plant-based protein, and an extraordinary amount of dietary fiber. More fiber per serving than almost any other item on this list. And the iron content is significant. The folate is significant. And the shelf life sits at 2 to 5 years in standard pantry conditions. Canned lentils require no soaking, no long cooking time, and no additional water beyond what's already in the can. They work in soups and stews, mixed through rice, combined with canned tomatoes and spices for a dal-style meal, or simply eaten as they are. They are also among the cheapest items on this entire list per gram of protein, which means you can stockpile a serious quantity without it making a noticeable dent in your weekly grocery budget. In combination with canned tomatoes, coconut milk, and spices, lentils give you the ability to cook genuinely satisfying, nutritionally complete meals with nothing more than a can opener and a heat source. Stock at least 30 to 40 cans across brown, all green, and red varieties. And at number 1, the best canned food you can stockpile in Australia, and the one that most Australians consistently underestimate because of its size and reputation. Canned sardines, specifically the small oily fish packed in olive oil or spring water that sit in every supermarket in the country at roughly $2 a tin and represent, gram for gram, one of the most nutritionally complete, shelf-stable foods on the planet. A single tin of sardines delivers complete protein with all essential amino acids, omega-3 fatty acids at levels that support brain function, reduce inflammation, and protect cardiovascular health under stress. Calcium from the soft edible bones. vitamin D in significant quantities, vitamin B12, selenium, and iron. That specific combination of nutrients is almost impossible to find in any other single canned food. The vitamin D content is particularly important in an Australian context. During extended emergencies, where you're sheltering indoors, a prolonged flood, an extended power outage, a smoke event that keeps you inside for days. Your sunlight exposure drops sharply, and vitamin D deficiency has real consequences for immune function, mood, and bone health. Sardines directly address that gap. The shelf life of properly stored sardines is 3 to 5 years minimum, and some food scientists suggest well-stored sardines remain safe and nutritious significantly longer than that. In Australia, Brunswick, John West, and home brand options from both Coles and Woolworths give you easy access to a product that costs almost nothing per serve and lasts for years. The flavour is strong, which is actually a strategic advantage. A small quantity transforms bland rice, pasta, or crackers into something with genuine taste and character. Eat them on Jatz crackers. Mash them through pasta with lemon and garlic if you have it. Mix them into rice. Make sardine patties with breadcrumbs if resources allow. Stock at least 36 tins per person. They are cheap. They are extraordinarily nutritious. They last longer than almost everything else on this list. And they provide essential nutrients that no other shelf-stable food in the Australian supermarket fully replaces. 12 canned foods, all of them available at your local Coles, Woolworths, or IGA right now. Guess the total cost of building a meaningful 3-month stockpile from this list is less than most Australians spend on a single grocery run, built up slowly and strategically over a few weeks. You don't need to do it all at once. Add 2 or 3 extra cans to your trolley each time you shop. Rotate the older stock to the front. Keep it somewhere cool and dark. Check dates twice a year. That is the entire system. The 2019 and 2020 summers taught Australians something that should have been obvious already. Disasters don't make appointments. The preparation happens before it's needed, or it doesn't happen at all. Drop a comment below with the canned food that's already in your pantry and the one you're adding first. And if this was useful, share it with someone who needs to hear it.